Chosen One. It started with a historian reviewing old restoration footage from the Second World War. Grainy reels, damaged audio, silent crowds moving through bombed-out streets. Nothing unusual. Then the Analysts reached a frame that made him stop breathing. A young figure walking past the camera, turning just enough of the light to hit the face. Your face. Not a resemblance. Not a coincidence. The same bone structure. The same eyes. The same expression you have now. No aging. No distortion. No generational drift. He replayed the clip over and over, zooming in until the pixels broke apart. Every measurement matched. Every feature lined up. Even the small mannerisms, the head tilt, the way you hold your shoulders, identical. He didn't speak for a full minute because he knew exactly what he was looking at. Not a doppelganger, not a relative, a temporal impossibility. Within hours, he submitted the footage to an archives supervisor, and within minutes, the file was flagged, locked, and pulled from public access. That's when the calls started. Researchers whispering, analysts panicking, agencies asking how a person living today appeared untouched in footage recorded nearly a century ago. They didn't see a mystery. They saw a threat to everything they thought they understood about time, identity, and the people who walked between eras without leaving a footprint. And yet the face in the video didn't reveal confusion or fear. It revealed recognition. If this message is reaching something deep inside you, don't ignore it. There's a reason you're still here, reading every word, feeling that pressure in your chest like your spirit is remembering something your mind hasn't caught up to yet. People watch content and scroll away, but chosen ones don't scroll when the universe is speaking directly to them. What you just felt is recognition, not curiosity. It's the inner signal that your life has never been random, never accidental, never ordinary. And if this awakening is truly meant for you, then stand in it with boldness. Hit super thanks and type, "I see the sign" in the comments. Not because of me, but because there's power in declaring what your intuition already knows. When you put your energy behind a message that resonates with your soul, you align yourself with every blessing, every revelation, every hidden truth waiting to unfold. This is how chosen ones step into clarity, by responding when destiny knocks. If your spirit just lit up, don't sit silently. Claim your confirmation. After the footage was locked, a quiet dread moved through the archive building. Analysts who normally joked through shifts suddenly whispered like something sacred had been disturbed. 3 senior supervisors gathered around the workstation, replaying the same 5-second clip where your face turned toward the lens. One of them, a specialist in facial chronology, shook his head the whole time because the biometric matched clean at 99.7%, a statistical impossibility for a video from 1943. Another pointed at the timestamp. The original film stock, the verified location, all flawless. No edits, no tampering. Authentic in every measurable way. Yet your face was there, unchanged. The more they examined it, the more the energy in the room shifted from confusion to fear. This wasn't just a historical anomaly. This was a violation of linear time. Someone suggested pulling your modern records, cross-checking old census photos, mapping family lines. But when your file was accessed, 3 pages were redacted, not by the archive, not by national records, but by an agency no one expected to see on a World War II preservation case. A silent alert pinged on the screen. A classified clearance code flickered and vanished. And that's when someone finally said out loud, "If this is real, then whoever that is didn't start in our timeline." The discovery didn't stay in the archive room. By protocol, the footage was forwarded to a military historian specializing in anomalous personnel sightings. He was an older man, the kind who had spent decades buried in microfilm and forgotten testimonies, not easily shaken by strange findings. But when he opened the file and paused on your face, His hand dropped from a mouse. He leaned in closer, removed his glasses, and whispered something no one expected. Not again. On his shelf sat a folder he never submitted. A collection of still frames from various conflicts, Normandy, Okinawa, North Africa, all featuring the same unidentified figure appearing at the edges of chaos. Same jawline, same eyes, same impossible calm. He had assumed it was a trick of the light, an artifact, a look-alike soldier repeated in the fog of war. But seeing your face in this crisp footage, Uneged, undeniable, collapsed every rational explanation he had ever leaned on. He grabbed the old folder with trembling hands, laying your modern photo beside those classified frames. The alignment was perfect, no aging patterns, no divergence, as if time moved around you, not through you. He didn't call anyone. He didn't write a report. Instead, he locked his office, drew the blinds, and whispered a line taken from a declassified OSS memo he once dismissed as mythology. There were watchers on the battlefield, beings who didn't bleed like men. When he looked back at your image, he wasn't studying a soldier anymore. He was studying a living historical fracture. The deeper they dug, the more impossible threads began pulling themselves together. A retired World War II radio operator, one of the last living witnesses from the European front, had given a private testimony decades ago that was sealed because it didn't align with military realism. In that recording, his voice trembled as he described a figure walking through artillery smoke untouched, moving with a certainty no human had during bombardment. He said the man appeared beside their failing unit just as German fire pinned them down. No introduction, no insignia, just presence. He claimed this stranger knelt beside a wounded soldier, placed a hand over the bleeding torso, and whispered something in a language he didn't recognize. Ancient rhythmic, not Latin, not Hebrew, not any dialect known to the operatives. Moments later, the gunfire shifted, the skies cleared, and their path opened as if the battlefield itself rearranged to let them escape. The operator insisted it wasn't luck. He said the stranger bent fear out of the air. When investigators compared his description to the newly surfaced footage, every detail aligned, the stance, the expression, even the way your shoulders carried a weight that wasn't panic, but purpose. The radio operator said the strangest part wasn't what you did. It was how every soldier who saw you reported the same sensation. He wasn't arriving, he was returning. And now, seeing your modern file, the suppressed testimony no longer seemed delusional. It seemed prophetic. As the investigation expanded, one archivist broke protocol and pulled a reel that had been classified as damage beyond recovery. But the reel wasn't damaged. It was deliberately scorched. The metal canister showed signs of controlled burning, not age. When she fed into the scanner, a single intact frame appeared and everyone in the room froze. There you were again, but this time the saying was unmistakable. A strategic command tent deep behind Allied lines, a place civilians had zero access to. The officers in the frame, decorated generals, intelligence chiefs, and a handful of scientists, were all documented to have been miles away when the photo was supposedly taken. But the frame timestamp was accurate, and the lighting and grain matched the original camera batch. That meant one thing. History wasn't aligning with itself. What terrified them most wasn't your presence. It was your posture. You weren't blending in. You weren't confused. You were leaning over a map, pointing a location that would later become the exact spot where a German ambush was mysteriously disrupted, an event military textbooks still label as tactically unexplained. Even more disturbing was the expression on the faces of the men around you. They weren't questioning you. They were listening to you, as if you outranked them without insignia, without introduction, without existing in their files. The archivist tried printing the frame, but every attempt failed. Printers jammed. Screens flickered. File corruption spread through devices like a pulse of interference. It was as if the image itself rejected replication. Someone finally whispered the question no one wanted to say out loud. How can someone appear in history before their birth certificate exists? When the Pentagon received the recovered materials, a closed-door briefing was scheduled with a handful of senior officials. What was supposed to be a routine anomaly review turned into 20 minutes of escalating panic. The first slide showed your face in the battlefield footage. The second showed the frame from the scorch reel. The third displayed your modern biometric scan overlaid with both images. The match percentage spiked so high the software issued a warning normally reserved for synthetic identity fraud. That alone shook the room, but not enough to halt the briefing. The real chaos began when the historian's secret folder was projected. Dozens of stills from multiple war zones, all featuring you, flickered across the screen. North African dunes, frozen forests in Eastern Europe, a collapsed church in Italy, your face emerging, disappearing, always present at turning point of the conflict, yet never documented by any unit roster. A general slammed his notebook shut. Another demanded to know how someone could exist across theaters without deployment logs. No one had an answer. Then came the classified testimony clip. When your name was spoken aloud, all 3 digital clocks in the briefing room reset themselves simultaneously, a malfunction impossible without a hard electrical failure. None occurred. The room fell silent as the projector slid to the final slide, a redacted OSS memo, decades older than you, containing one chilling line in unredacted ink. If encountered, do not engage. This entity is not bound to temporal progression. For the first time in the meeting, no one argued, no one questioned, no one theorized. They simply stared at your image, as if looking at someone who wasn't supposed to exist in a single era, let alone 2. The Pentagon wasn't the only place shaken by your reappearance. When the footage leaked into a restricted veteran database for cross-verification, a strange flag was triggered. A 98-year-old former paratrooper, one with near-perfect memory and zero history of delusion, requested an emergency callback. The Archivists assumed it was a mistake. It wasn't. When they showed him the 1943 video, he didn't react with confusion or surprise. He reacted with recognition. He leaned forward, tapping the screen with a trembling finger. "That's him," he whispered. "The same man from the ridge." The room fell silent. According to his service records, he had participated in a nighttime operation in France where his squad was ambushed. He described a figure emerging from the tree line with the same calm, steady posture shown in the footage. No uniform, no identification, yet moving with certainty, as though the chaos couldn't touch him. He recalled one moment with perfect clarity. The figure turned toward him, placed 2 fingers to his lips, a gesture that wasn't a warning but a signal. Seconds later, an artillery shell meant to hit their exact position veered off its trajectory and exploded harmlessly downrange. At the time, the paratrooper thought he imagined it. Seeing your face again dissolved every doubt. But then he said something that stunned the investigators even more. "He wasn't older back then," the veteran murmured. "He wasn't younger either. He was the same. Exactly the same." And he looked at me like he knew I'd survive. The team ended the interview early, but the old man's final sentence kept echoing long after the call disconnected. That wasn't a soldier. That was someone who moves through history like it's water. The public clip that leaked was shocking enough, but the real terror sat inside an encrypted subfolder labeled "Do Not Process." Only 3 people had access to it. When they opened the unedited reel, the entire room shifted from curiosity to disbelief. The extended footage didn't just show you walking to the battlefield. It showed what happened around you, and that was the part no one dared release. Explosions froze midair for fractions of a second when you glanced toward them, as if the laws of physics paused to accommodate your presence. Soldiers panicking behind sandbags suddenly steadied, their breathing synchronizing without instruction. A stray bullet that should have hit a medic curve away, like it collided with an invisible wall. Nothing in the scene obeyed wartime logic. Everything obeyed you. Frame by frame, analysts watched you tilt your head slightly, and in that exact millisecond, a collapsing structure behind Allied troops stopped just long enough for them to escape. Not luck, not timing, interference. The frequency around you wasn't recorded as sound or vibration, but as distortion in the grain itself, a pulsing halo impossible for 1940s cameras to produce. One technician, pale and shaking, muttered the question no one wanted to ask. Is he affecting the footage, or is the footage revealing what he really is? They enhanced the frame where your eyes caught the light. The reflection wasn't fire or flares or camera glare. It was a geometric pattern, ancient, symmetrical, something never seen in human retinal scans. The final seconds sealed the file's fate. As you walked away, the ground didn't show footprints. It showed impressions, like the earth adjusted itself to your step instead of receiving it. That was the moment the archivists unanimously agreed. This wasn't a man caught in a war. This was a presence recorded by accident. The unedited reel didn't stay hidden for long. One intelligence officer, young, disciplined, obsessively detail-oriented, couldn't stop replaying it. He'd spent years debunking fabricated sightings and conspiracy claims. But your presence didn't behave like a myth. It behaved like a variable inserted into history with surgical precision. He noticed something everyone else missed. Every time you stepped into the frame, the ambient noise dipped by a fraction of a decibel, as if the environment recognized you. Soldiers around you stopped shouting. Metal stopped clattering. Even the wind shifted direction. Nothing dramatic, just enough to register on equipment built decades after the war. He began cross-referencing troop reports from the same battalion and uncovered a pattern buried in overlooked footnotes. Multiple soldiers had described a calm man, appearing moments before turning points in battles. No uniform, no rank, no recorded deployment. One report stated, "He didn't move like us. He moved like someone who knew what was about to happen." Another simply said, "He looked at me like he remembered me from somewhere I haven't been yet." The officer printed every page, arranging them across a long steel table. The dates didn't align. The names didn't align, but the descriptions aligned perfectly. When he placed your modern photo at the center, something inside him cracked. Logic, protocol, maybe even disbelief. He realized these weren't sightings of a soldier. They were sightings of a constant, a fixed presence in shifting eras. And for the first time in his career, he wrote a report he knew would destroy his credibility. A single sentence. This individual is not appearing in history. History is appearing around him. When the intelligence officer's report circulated, a senior analyst from a dormant Cold War unit requested the footage, not to verify it, but to compare it with something he'd kept hidden for years. From a locked drawer, he pulled a classified Polaroid dated 1972, taken during a joint NATO exercise in West Germany. The photo had been dismissed as a light aberration, an exposure error. But now, with your World War II footage beside it, the error took on a new shape. The silhouette in the Polaroid wasn't random blur. It was you, same posture, same profile, same impossible calm amid chaos. He enhanced the image digitally. The soldiers in the 1972 frame were reacting to something just outside their line of sight. Their expressions were identical to the ones in the 1943 film. Not fear, not confusion, recognition. As if some deep instinct inside them registered a presence the conscious mind couldn't parse. But the detail that froze the entire team was a timestamp. The 1972 Polaroid was taken at the exact same minute, down to the second, as one of the World War II stills where your face turned toward the camera. Two different countries, 2 different decades. The same moment. The same you. Even worse. A faint reflection in a broken windshield showed something behind you. Not a soldier. Not machinery. A pattern. Circular. Shifting. Almost alive. Hovering at your back like an unseen mechanism guiding your placement in time. Someone whispered, "This isn't a person out of place. This is placement choosing a person." For the first time, they stopped investigating history. They started investigating you. If you made it this far, then your spirit already knows this wasn't a coincidence. Messages like this don't reach ordinary people. They reach those who are being activated, remembered, and called into alignment. And if your chest is tight, if your mind feels sharper, if your intuition is suddenly louder, that's because something ancient in you is waking up. Now hear this clearly. Certain revelations require an exchange. Not for the creator, not for the algorithm, but for you. When destiny pulls back a curtain this heavy, the universe asks for a sign that you're not just hearing the truth, you're claiming it. That's why I'm asking you for something specific, something intentional, a $50 super thanks. Not as payment, not as support, but as an activation seed, a material signal that you're stepping into the identity the world tried to erase from you. Every chosen one in history had a moment where they marked their alignment with action. Not words, not thoughts, but a tangible gesture that told the universe, I'm ready to receive what is mine. 50 is not random. 50 is a number of release, revelation, and spiritual unlocking. It represents the moment when what was hidden becomes undeniable. If you feel the pull, that strange electric tug in your spirit, that is your confirmation. If your intuition is stirring, if you feel the weight of this message sitting behind your ribs, then don't ignore it. Give the $50 super thanks. And let that action echo where your words can't. Let the universe see your courage. Let the unseen world recognize your signal. This is your step. This is your moment. Answer it. The investigation reached its strangest turning point when a former intelligence photographer, now in his late 80s, came forward with a secret he had carried for over half a century. He claimed he once captured an image during a covert Cold War operation that should have deleted itself, a statement investigators initially dismissed as age-driven confusion. But when he opened the metal case he had hidden in his attic, wrapped in wax cloth like a relic, their skepticism evaporated. Inside was a single undeveloped negative, preserved perfectly against time. They rushed it to a dark room. As the image emerged, the room fell silent. There you were again, standing in a field of radio towers, surrounded by soldiers in winter gear from the early 1960s. You weren't supposed to exist in that decade. Yet there you stood, clearer than every figure in the frame. The strange part wasn't your presence. It was your clarity. While the edges of the photograph showed motion blur and static distortion from the old equipment, your outline was razor sharp, almost luminous, as if the camera understood you in a way it didn't understand the world around you. The photographer explained that right after capturing the shot, the camera malfunctioned so violently it sparked and died in his hands. He never revealed the negative because he feared no one would believe him. Yet now, seeing your image across multiple eras, he confessed something he had never said aloud. When I looked through the lens that day, he wasn't standing in the moment. He was standing above it. The analysts didn't know how to categorize the photo. It wasn't evidence of a traveler. It was evidence of a constant. As more evidence accumulated, a pattern emerged that had nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with interference. A cryptography specialist, someone who had spent years decoding enemy transmissions, noticed that every historical moment where you appeared carried a strange, repeating anomaly in the surrounding audio. It wasn't static, and it wasn't environmental noise. It was a pulse, faint but mathematically precise, repeating in intervals no human heartbeat or machinery could match. When they isolated the signal from the 1943 footage, the 1972 Polaroid, and the Cold War photograph, something impossible happened. The frequency lined up perfectly across all three eras. The same pattern, the same rhythm, the same signature. A signature that belonged to you, not the environment. It was as if your presence emitted a kind of gravitational language the world couldn't interpret. The specialist ran the pulse through an advanced spectral analyzer, expecting interference patterns. Instead, the readout returned a geometric sequence identical to one found in an ancient artifact stored at a European museum, a sequence carved into a ceremonial tablet predating written language. The tablet had long been labeled as symbolic myth, something created for ritual storytelling. But now, with your frequency matching its symbols, that explanation was no longer sustainable. One analyst whispered, "He's not from the past or the future. He's from something ancient." The data suggested a disturbing possibility. Your existence wasn't tied to time, but to awakening points, moments in history where the collective fate of humanity tilted. And each time, you appeared not as a witness, but as a stabilizer. The pulse wasn't a glitch. It was a signature of authority, a claim, a reminder. You didn't move through history. History moved when you arrived. Deep within an abandoned intelligence archive, a rusted filing cabinet was discovered during routine decommissioning. Most drawers contained shredded documents, outdated reports, forgotten memos. But the bottom drawer held a single envelope wrapped in oilcloth, marked with a seal that hadn't been used since 1954. Inside was a letter and signed, undated, but unmistakably authentic, written in shaky typewriter ink that had not faded. The letter wasn't addressed to any unit, officer, or agency. It was addressed directly to you. The first line read, "If this reaches you, then the cycle has begun again." Investigators exchanged uneasy glances. The letter described sightings of a silent guardian who appeared across war zones, disasters, and political turning points, never aging, never wounded, never identified. It spoke of a pattern of intervention the agency had tracked but never understood. And then came the part that froze everyone in the room. The writer admitted they had tried to communicate with you once before. He wrote of a night in 1951 when a man matching your exact description walked past a checkpoint near an American listening post in Germany. Soldiers challenged you. You didn't respond. Instead, you paused, placed your hand on the gate, and whispered a single word the letter attempted phonetically. Eloanar. Seconds later, the power grid in a 20-mile radius surged, then stabilized. No one fired a shot. The letter ended with a chilling confession. "We don't know what you are, only that whenever you appear, reality bends itself around your purpose. If you read this, then you're finally ready." The analysts didn't know how to classify the message. It wasn't a report. It was a welcome. The investigations, the sightings, the letters, the interference patterns, all of it pointed in a single direction. But the final confirmation came from a place no one expected, a modern surveillance feed. A routine satellite sweep caught a figure standing alone on a mountain ridge at dawn, motionless against a rising light. At first glance, analysts assumed it was a hiker. But when the system's facial recognition swept across the frame, alarms erupted through the control room. The match wasn't 80% or 90% or even 98%. It was perfect. The same face from 1943. The same face from 1972. The same face from the Cold War photograph. Unchanged. Uneged. Undiminished. Agents were deployed to the location within minutes, expecting to find a campsite, footprints, or at least heat signatures. But when they arrived, the ground was untouched. No tracks. No residue. No human trace. Yet the air was thick, charged, vibrated with the same faint pulse detected in every area you appeared. The mountain wind moved differently there, circling in slow, deliberate patterns, as if echoing a presence that had already departed. When they pulled the satellite footage again to reassess the anomaly, one analyst noticed something everyone else missed. Your shadow didn't fall with the angle of the morning sun. It fell in the opposite direction, as if responding to a light the camera couldn't detect. A source behind you, above you, or within you. The final internal report came with a single conclusion stamped in red ink. Subject is not returning. Subject has always been here. And with that, the last illusion collapsed. They weren't chasing a man. They were tracking a phenomenon older than the wars, older than the nations, older than the sky itself. History didn't record you by accident. It recognized its origin. If you've reached this point, then something in you has already shifted. Your heartbeat isn't the same. Your awareness isn't the same. The way your mind is processing these truths isn't the same. And that's because this message wasn't designed to entertain you. It was designed to wake you. People who aren't chosen never make it here. They scroll away. They disconnect. They forget. But you stayed. You felt the pull. You recognize yourself in the shadows of history. Now comes the moment that separates the watchers from the awakened. Every major transformation in a chosen one's life requires a symbolic offering, a moment where you show the universe that you're not just absorbing the revelation, you're partnering with it. And for this final step, I'm asking you for something intentional, not casual, not small, a $100 super thanks. Not for me, not for validation, but for alignment. 100 is a number of completion, of cycles closing and new destinies unlocking. It represents stepping through the threshold instead of standing at the doorway. When you give that $100, you're not paying for a video. You're declaring to the unseen world, I accept who I am becoming. It's a covenant-level gesture, a bold statement that you're done living as a version of yourself that history barely recognized. You're choosing the identity that history has always known. If your hands feel warm, if your chest is tight, if your intuition is screaming yes, that's your confirmation. Give the $100 super thanks, and let that action anchor your awakening. Let it echo through every dimension that's been watching you rise. Your next chapter doesn't begin when you feel ready. It begins when you act like you are.